really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard, which is what, seriously speaking, is all about.
Yes, hello there. It's one of those days when I'm talking about a book. This is Seriously Speaking. Today, I'm sharing with you insights into a book I read recently that opened my eyes to how innovative people can be if you need to help other people. While advocating your wanderlust or satisfying your wanderlust, you can still afford to do a lot of things. Can you imagine riding a bike all the way from here to London and back, and then from here to South Africa and back? Well, some fella, I'll describe him as a young man, has done this, and he's put them in the book, and one of the books is right here with me. It's called Road Home from the South. Very interesting book, but more interesting is what the book can do if you buy it. Not only if you read it, if you buy it. I'll be back very shortly with my guest on the show in a minute on Seriously Speaking. Now, this book is titled FD, Breaking Limits, Road Home from the South, an African adventure. I'll just read a little clip before I introduce you to the person who took the memoirs and then turned them into a book. He says, this is from page 111, and it says, I start talking with the woman who owns the buka and discover that she's actually a Nigerian who's been living in Gabon for about 19 years. It is from our conversation that I get a hint that God is making a way for me. She tells me she's still in touch with a lot of Nigerians back home and that one of her relatives has just came back to Gabon from Nigeria. Now, the person who penned those words is somebody that's called Ogbonnaya Kanu, and he's here on set with me with his lovely wife, and I'll explain why after introducing him. Ogbonnaya, welcome to Seriously Speaking.
You.
And then Eseohe, but he calls her Eso, Eso, why? Just like that?
Well, Eso is a short form. Everybody says Eso. It's easier.
Esohe. Now, I find it interesting now, you're decorated with a lot of flags and a lot of badges, and you are the Secretary General of a Bikers Association. So ordinarily, you're a biker, right?
Yes, I ride a bike.
You ride a bike, but you know when you think of people who ride bikes, they're like daredevils, you know the kind of evil Knievel kind of person.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of person that you are?
Well, someone looking
from the outside,
yes, might think that. Yeah. But it's so much more than that.
Now, you've written for more than 10 years. Now, you see what I just read now, it's something from your book.
Yeah.
And it's the combination of the fact that the surprise of finding a Nigerian, the fact that you put God into it, and the fact that you are on your way from somewhere crazy back home, it just kind of encapsulates the kind of person that you are. At what point did you realize that going on these journeys was something that you wanted to do?
Well, first, it was short trips. The first trips we used to make then Lagos to Abeokuta. And a friend organized a trip around Nigeria. I joined in that, and I was like, this is very nice. Because you get to meet new people, you get to meet new things you would never know exist out there. And I realized this is something I want to do. So short trips, neighboring countries, you stretch a bit more and begin to discover yourself, begin to discover that the limits you thought were there aren't really there. And
because it's all about breaking limits.
Exactly.
Breaking limits is what this is about.
Exactly.
Now, before I start taking you on that journey and about this book, Esohe, your husband gets up to you and says, look, I want to drive to Europe, ride to Europe. Did you say, okay, honey, bye?
Not exactly. Not initially.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I would hate to think that you just,
I didn't mind the distance. My worry was the Sahara Desert.
For which of them now? For the Europe
For the one to Europe. I was thinking, aren't you going to go through some stretch of desert land? How will you cope? If something happens to you, what will happen? Who would be there to bail you out? But he said something to me. He said, do you think I'm setting out to kill myself? And, that got me.
And of course. You have two little,
yeah.
then
they were about...
It was just How old were your
6,
daughters?
I think. 4. Didi must have been 4. So 4 and 8. 4 and 8 at that time. So I thought, well, obviously he would want to come back home to meet his wife and children. So I'm sure he would have taken steps to ensure that it was safe. And I started trying to bring myself to the point where it wouldn't be a problem. You know, I kept just saying to myself, everything will be well. He'll be well. He would have taken steps to do this. So when he assured me I was okay, I was fine with it, and I started supporting actively.
What was your active support?
Oh, fine.
There's no escorting him to the airport to fly. So you escort him to the junction or what?
No. At least he would go knowing that I'm not worried in that sense. So I suppose that would be some benefit to him to know that I'm not anxious, or I'm not overtly excited for, no, not excited, overtly anxious for
About
that
his
trip.
safety.
Exactly.
But you must have prayed every night.
I did pray. I did pray. And
Okay, but let me understand why you are, riding for you, was it by accident or was deliberate?
Accident. I just stumbled upon it, you know. My work allows me to meet a lot of people.
A chemical engineer?
Yes. So we do water treatment. So we have, by virtue of that, we meet a lot of people. And I walked into this guy's office to sell him water treatment. And when we had done with the sales, I'd seen a magazine on his table, and to bring, commonality, I brought it up. What's a guy like you doing with this kind of... And the man just lit up and started talking about motorcycling. I was indifferent. That weekend, I was with him, and he was showing me the ropes.
With his bike?
With his own bike, yeah. And I was like, you say you bought this how much? Okay, I'm not going to sit on this. Yeah, very expensive then to me. And but he was so enthusiastic. He said, let's do it, let's do it. That weekend, the following weekend, I bought a bike. The one I told you about.
With your friend?
Yeah, with a friend of mine. And I started, it was delivered to his premises. And every day when I get off work at 5, by 10, 15 past 5, I was in his premises. And he would coach me. And that's how it wasn't, I didn't plan for it. I didn't look for it. And